All right, so why did I go with the GRP Harness Bar? Couple answers. One, I said it already, Greg's Race Parts, everything they do is phenomenal. Customer service, their products, I love them all. The second big one, because I typically would do a half cage, is that there is a cage already built into this chassis. And when weight is everything, especially with this car, I didn't feel the need to do a secondary half cage. Now, there's gonna be a lot of debate there. Obviously, the more the better, the safer, but I think this should be plenty. So let's get this unwrapped. This was the same color that I believe Kaz on Emira forums requested, and they said it was as close to a match to the factory yellow calipers as they could find, which is exactly what I was going for. The outside of my car is definitely not Hethel yellow either with the wrap. It's more of a highlighter yellow. So I think this should go really nicely with everything else. But it did come pre-powder coated from GRP, so it's one less step that I have to do too, which is nice. I haven't installed one of these before. It looks pretty simple. There's only 2 bolts that came with it and some pads. I'm making a mess. I'll clean this up later. 16 millimeter. So it should be pretty straightforward. Well packaged, well protected, just like all of their products. Cool. So here she is. Bolts into the upper belt mounts. Rests on the rear tray. Also takes up less space in the rear if that's your thing, if you're looking to travel with bags. So I think all around this is a good solution. I haven't bought the belts or the harnesses that I want to use just yet because I got to figure out something with the seat mounts. Greg is also working on that, so maybe that'll be an install later to come. Before all that, let's get her weighed. All right. So without the bar, I'm sitting at a 209.8. With the bar, 220 on the head.
That's how much that weighs?
No, I'm 209.8, so 220 on the head. That'd be 11.2 pounds?
Yep.
No, 10.2 pounds. 10.2, not bad.
10.3 would be better.
Me losing 10.3 would be better. But let's get this in, and then we will get the Tillets in, and that'll be a job well done. If you're curious about the color match, it's kind of tough because I'm losing sunlight, but it's very similar to the Lotus decal, a little less similar to the caliper, but not far off. The lighting is definitely making this look weird. Let's come around to the hood, or try the shade here. So there's no sun. I would say it's a little more green than both, but not terribly far off. Then if you look at the wrap, again, it's tough with this lighting, but that is darn close to the wrap that I have. So overall, I'm gonna call that a win. Great job, Greg. Looks good. I believe we're gonna put the reinforcement brackets towards the rear. Although I do still need to remove the upper belts first, so let's do that. All right, so these should be pretty cut and dry. Just lift up towards the ceiling on this plastic piece to get that off. Odds are that's also a 16, which is why Greg provided 16 millimeter bolts. Let's see if I was right. No, they are not 16. All right, so these are gonna be 13 millimeter. That's broken loose, so I'm gonna break this one loose. Remember, just lift up on the plastic. It'll pop right out. Then for speed, I'm gonna switch it up. Ooh, probably shouldn't have let that fall so easily. This side as well. That Loctite's flying everywhere. Cool. And then the bar will just bolt right into these two places, rest on this back tray, and theoretically it's as secure as the factory belts. He did provide 2 pads. I don't know exactly where those go just yet. I'm just test fitting it in here to see what this looks like. I imagine they're going to be going on the plastics where this touches. So I think with the pads it'll be okay. There is a slight gap here. So let's get these provided pads that GRP sends installed on the back side of these brackets. That way it doesn't scratch up our plastics. And we'll go from there. It's literally just sticky back here. I'm gonna pause right here. After I installed the bar, the bottom did have a little movement back and forth. It would have been just fine leaving it as is because it would have caught in either direction should the bar rotate. However, I actually used some of this pad beneath the foot of the bar to help hold it even more secure. And in the end, I added even more high density foam. So that's what you don't see. If you don't use all of the padding for the 2 sides of the plastics because it's not all needed, I would advise you to apply it to the bottom of the foot. It looked like it was towards the base that it actually does the rubbing. So, all right, so I'm just gonna apply it right to the center. There we go. I'm gonna do the same thing to the other side. And we'll get her mounted up. All right, there is I don't know what these are called, but these tab washers that hold these bolts in place on the factory belt that has to be pried off so that you can get these out. I'm gonna try with a few small flathead screwdrivers without stabbing myself if at all possible. I doubt these will be reusable once you pry them up because they're going to get damaged. So keeping that in mind, it's just a matter of completing the job here. I feel like this will be way easier just to cut off. And then I don't have to worry about stabbing myself either. Now we'll knock out the other side real fast. I think a Dremel seems to be the easiest way of attacking this because prying it off was not really working for me. Might have done the trick. There we go. Nice. Now we're ready to install. One thing to note is that the thickness of the washer on the back side of the factory belts is about the same thickness as the thickness of the back side of the harness bar. So you probably won't need to use this. The washer provided, I can only assume, goes on the front side. You'll see in a second that I did end up using the factory washer and I did not end up using the GRP provided washer. So we have our rubber pieces in place. So we should be able to stand this up and start to set this into position here. And with the rubber in place, it does sit in here pretty tight. We just need to make sure these holes are lined up before we obviously start screwing it in. So we'll get one started, and then before we tighten her up, we will get the other one in there. So let's use a little Loctite. Grab the belt, grab the washer. So washer, belt first. That provides the proper spacing for the belt, and then we feed it through the harness bar. That's my strategy, and that way I can replace the trim piece as well. I've had this on and off a few times now just to test a couple of different configurations. So this is the one I'm going with. Make sure you get these threads started before using any type of power tool. Perfect. Pop the trim piece back in. And I'm going to call that done. I'm going to pause it right here so that you can see the movement back and forth after it's installed. This is where I then went back and added some high density foam underneath the foot. I'm sure it's fine either way. It just felt more completed in my eyes when it no longer moved. Oddly, there's still a little bit of play in this. As if it's not wedged far enough down here. Maybe I should have used some of that rubber strip underneath this piece. Okay, so I got the bar installed. I did want to show you that with the addition of about a 1/2 to 3/4 inch high density foam underneath the foot, this thing doesn't move one bit. From a safety perspective, it wouldn't have mattered whether there was anything underneath that or not. It just gave me a sense of completion once I installed that. I did not tighten the bolts down any further than I did previously, so that clearly made a little bit of a difference. So yeah, this is pretty much done. I need to decide which harnesses I'm gonna run. I gotta figure that out. That'll come at a later date. But for now, it's on to installing the Tillet bucket seats, which I'm super pumped about. I do think if you're running the factory setup and you want a harness bar in your car, you can install this bar. I'm pretty sure you can install this bar with the seats in or out. I think if you slide them all the way forward and put the backs up, you should have no problem sliding this behind it. So the seats don't need to come out. I was just already going through that process anyway, so I figured it'd save me a little bit of headache by doing it with them removed. So hope this helps.